Thank you very much for this great introduction. Let me share my screen and present. Can you see my whole screen?
Yes.
Great. So as Steve mentioned, there is much more about software quality than just code and tests. And we sharpen our axe and we become better software engineers, not only developers, every day. But I conducted 20 plus webinars about software quality, inviting great specialists, inviting great engineers, and talking about software quality. And we all agreed about one thing, that frameworks and libraries don't break the projects, they don't like destroy companies. We do, people do. There is much more than just bricks that we put together, than lines of code, than libraries and frameworks. And this is what this presentation is all about different dimensions of producing software. So it's the best quality that that we can have, because I really believe in people, and I am not a big fan of theories that people are lazy or people just do something on purpose. They break things. I believe we all do all the best we can to produce great quality software, but sometimes life happens, and sometimes there are situations that that are avoidable, but we need to learn much more than just frameworks and libraries to do that. We often compare producing software to construction, because we have architects. They also do have architects. We create tasks. These are our bricks. We build buildings, which are our projects, our products. And we think that it's all about the engineering. But in software engineering, in producing software, not every two products are the same. You cannot find like two teams that are the same, or two projects that are equal. There is like lots of things going on the process, and even if you have the same bricks and you have the same people, you have the same engineers and the same plan, you will probably end up in completely different place. My name is Ola Kunysz. I'm a software engineer. Last year, I published a book about software quality. It's in Polish, but maybe one day I will publish it in English as well. We'll see. I've been producing online courses about tests, mostly unit tests, and I realized that tests and good quality of code is like extremely important, and the hard skill of writing good tests and writing good code is extremely important, but it's not enough. And this is what this presentation is all about. And I see it this way, that we have three factors that are very important, and they need to be aligned and somehow put together to produce good quality software. And the first one is people, because the people we work with is the most tricky part. Because if you make this part wrong, so you don't care about people at all, you don't care about the team, you will most surely fail. But if you take care of that and you do it right, you can still fail, because we are people and we are, very hard to cooperate. And the first dimension of that is communication. And communication is hard, really, not only in the like software engineering team, because this is just one level, but still we have different communication styles. We are extroverts, introverts. Some of us share feedback easily or get feedback easily. Some of us don't. We can like learn from our mistakes. We can admit that we made mistakes easily. Some of us prefer not to, or to fix our bugs before anyone notices. So by communicating on this level of technical people, and look at this, we have this special technical language that we communicate. And even though it's hard to cooperate on a daily basis, because I'm a backend developer mostly, and if I communicate with front-end developers and we talk about simple things like, I don't know, one endpoint that I need to produce that need to be consumed by the front-end, and I hear one thing, and the thing that it's necessary, the thing this other person is talking to me might be a completely different thing. And it all depends on the person who is talking to me, on the, I don't know, the mood that we are both in, and many, many factors. So on this level of technical team, communication can be hard. And if you start talking to the business people, so you go outside of the technical team, you need to change the language a little bit. You need to use different terms. You need to make other things important, because if we talk between engineers about the quality of the code, it's obvious for us that we care about that a lot. But if you go to business people, you cannot say we do that because we want to have higher code coverage, right? Because they don't care about it. They care about the timeline, they care about the deadlines, and the product that is without bugs, and the money, of course. But they don't really care about code coverage. Come on. So you need to change the language a little bit. If you work with the machine learning software, there is additional dimension of the communication, which is the scientist language. And you know, these like three environments need to come together and discuss things, and it might not be so obvious what we are all talking about. So we might skip the communication because we think that it's too hard. So we decide that it's better to like work on our own and just avoid talking to people, because it takes extra time. If I do something on my own, probably it's worse quality than if we produce it as a team, because you know everyone has different ideas and we have a couple of pairs of eyes, but it's going to be faster. For sure, because there is lots of communication needs to be done, which adds extra time to that. So communication can be like skipped by some people, and we have completely other point in the spectrum, which is endless discussions. There are people who love discussions, and they don't really discuss things to solve anything, or prepare action points, or change, or find a solution. They just discuss to keep the discussion going, to show their arguments, to show how smart they are, to like jump right into the conclusions and maybe solutions. I've seen the presentation from Geek on Prague, I think, from Paul Clip, and he said we don't really listen. We don't really listen to understand, but we listen to reply. So we hear just a little bit and we jump into the conclusions. We jump into the solutions immediately. We don't really want to understand the other person. And if you are in this discussion, maybe it's exciting to be like in this fight and show your arguments and see how you're winning this discussion. But it takes lots of energy. It wastes time of the whole team, because if you are the audience of this discussion, you feel like you don't belong really, and you don't need to be part of this meeting, because this meeting is all about fight of two or three people who just exchange the arguments. They really talk about the same thing, but they keep finding different arguments, and they keep this fight just to like enjoy it. And this is huge waste. And some people say that it's a problem of big corporates, but from my experience, the discussions take too much time in growing the companies. So if you have the startup and you have four technical people in a team, it's fairly productive meeting to have everyone in one meeting. But if you grow to 10, 15 people, bringing everyone and asking about opinion is just a huge waste of time, of energy, because meetings are extremely exhaustive, and it's not productive anymore. So if we skip the communication part, it's not so effective to work as a team. But if we decide to keep endless discussions going on in our team, it's even worse. And one of the one of the reasons is our wild ego, because we don't want to show that we are weak. At some point, we don't want to say, "All right, you're right. Let's do it your way." I haven't met many developers like this. Mostly the discussion goes on until someone breaks it, and it's mostly because of the wild ego. So people want to win. People don't want to like find the best solution for the team or for the product. They just want to win with their arguments, show how smart they are. And the same reason is behind not saying about like your mistakes, avoiding being blamed for some bugs going on the production. And it's all about the ego. So every time there is a problem and you see the problem and you ask yourself, what's going on? What's the worst that can happen there? And the answer starts with I or me or myself. The red light should come on, because it's mostly about the ego, about yourself in the situation, and not the best for the team and not the best for the product. So this people factor is like really hard, especially that if you look at the job descriptions, you cannot find many soft skills there. So all the requirements are technical, because it's easy to measure. You go to the interview and they ask you about Java compiler or other technical things, and it's easy to say if you're wrong or right. But for the soft skills, there's usually some blurred sentence like the person is good team player or works effective in a team. What does it even mean? How do you measure that? How do you check that during the interview process? It's really hard, right? So most of us just create the descriptions which are very technical. And if you look at the candidates, they think and assume, and I think they are right, that the technical skills are valued the most, and they don't need to really care about the soft skills. So so they don't learn how to give feedback. They don't learn how to communicate effectively, how to take the feedback or discuss things on the right level, and being like not so aggressive. I'm not sure about your teams, but it happened to me that people during the discussions became really aggressive, and it's not that they are bad people, they just don't know how to communicate right without the aggression. So it all can be learned. And we have, for example, in Poland, great workshop about soft skills for programmers. So they are especially dedicated to IT people. But it's just, you know, one company that who does that, and there is lots of people who just don't know how to communicate effectively. And it's a pity because you have great engineers who are very skillful, and you have these superstars who come to one team and they just cannot produce good quality software because there is always something wrong with the communication. So they either don't communicate at all because they think they know the best, so they prepare the product themselves, or they have endless discussions where they want to show how smart they are, and they don't want to come to any conclusion because they enjoy showing off. So this is like really hard, and like checking this this much during the interview process is really important. The process is another dimension, but the process of software engineering, because we have our CI/CD process for our code, so we are constantly checked if the code is good quality, if the tests pass. But we don't have the CI for the processes, for the procedures that we have. And some procedures can be outdated and some procedures can be necessary, but we don't realize that because we don't have the CI to constantly check. And we make mistakes because we are people and we can have bad days. Maybe we don't sleep well during the night, maybe we have small kids, or just the weather. People in Poland always complain about the weather. So we, if the weather is bad, we feel bad, and that's, you know, this is very common here. So for that, we need the processes which will take care of the quality without us being involved. And during these webinars that I mentioned at the beginning, we also talked with some engineers who are specialists, not in IT, but in other industries. And they say that the processes they are extremely important. And we believe in people, that people do the best they can every moment, but we cannot be our best 100% of the time. We cannot have like hundreds of great decisions a day. There is like some limitations to that. And we need the good processes that will prevent us from ourselves, actually. And we need to constantly improve these processes, check if something works for us or doesn't work for us anymore. And in one of my previous projects, we had lots of unit tests because they were necessary during the process. So we created some piece of software and we created lots of unit tests with that. And at some point, we decided that they don't bring any value and they are the legacy that we need to maintain. So we decided to remove them. I know it might not be a very popular decision, especially that I'm in tests topic on a daily basis, but we did that. And actually it was a really good idea because we focused on the integration tests, and they were much better for us at this point. So we skipped the unit tests for the new features, and we just focused on the integration tests. So the integration test became our best process to prevent bugs, and we didn't have to invest any time in this unit test, which didn't bring us any value. And sometimes it can be hard to make decision like that, especially if you are new to the team and people don't really trust you, and you say, hey, let's remove all the tests, and it might not be so popular, but if you come to the team with the fresh eye and you see things from different angle, it might be obvious for you, but for the people who work together very long, they might think that it's natural, so they don't want to change anything. They might be trapped by the procedures. They are just so used to procedures because they had them for a very long time, so they think that they are obvious and there is no other way to work. So they are trapped in this. So sometimes the person who is new to the team and doesn't have so much trust is actually the best person to bring the idea. I'm not saying that we need to do everything new folks ask us to do, but sometimes it's good to just check if the idea is worth discussing or not, because of this like fresh eye and something that it can be seen, which is obvious for the person who is joining, but not so much for the team members, because we are just so used to the procedures and processes that we have on board, and they prevent us from like producing good quality software, because we need to do all these workarounds to like follow the procedures, but the procedures are not bringing any value for us anymore. All right, so so we have the people, we have the process, which is like making sure that the people work right together, and they worked together to produce this good quality software. And last but not least is the having the incidents. And this is like really tricky because the incidents are hot potatoes that everyone want to just, you know, pass around and just make sure that it's not so long on our plate. We just want to get rid of that as soon as possible because it's a problem. And people look at us if we take care of this incident, of this bug, and they have some expectations, and there might be even blame going on. And this is the worst part when there is some kind of incident, which is can be a bug, can be something else, and you decide to take care of that. People might think that it's you who caused the problem in the first place, so that's why you volunteer to fix the bug. And it's a nightmare to like be the person blamed, because everyone is focusing on the blaming part and not like producing any action points to plan how to solve this and to work on the solution and not the cause of the problem, because the cause of the problem is really important afterwards. When we do the hot fix, then we think about what was the cause of the problem. I will talk about this in a minute. But in this very moment, when there is a bug on the production, the first natural reaction of almost every person in a team is to find the person who is guilty, or the team who is guilty, and then we can just pass it this hot potato and we are done. So this is very important, not to do this, and to work on the plan. And if there is a person who is guilty of like this problem, this is probably the best candidate to start working on that. But it doesn't mean that this person needs to be like left alone and work on that, because that's why we have teams and we don't work in garages anymore, to support each other. And in this hard moments, to like show that we really support each other, and not like put this hot potato on the plate of the person who is guilty, because this way we kill the innovation, we kill the part of creative thinking and of experimenting and trying new things. Because if we are so afraid of being blamed for the mistake that we made, we are not eager to try new things or to suggest new things. Because if there are some ideas that we suggested and they are wrong, and we are blamed for that, we won't try that anymore. So that's really important, to focus on the plan, to be productive and see the ways to move on and fix the bug, instead of like looking for the person who is responsible, or the team who is responsible. Is this avoidable in the future, or was this avoidable in the past? What can be done to avoid it when something similar happens? This is one of the hardest parts of fixing the bug, because like fixing is easy. You do the hot fix, you push it to production, and you're done, you're fine. But then we need to come back to this, analyze it, do the cold fix, which is the fix done right, with all the tests, even though the test should be done for hot fix as well, because otherwise you don't really know if you fixed anything or not. But with the so-called cold fix, we need to like sit down together, maybe the whole team, maybe not. You remember the part about endless discussions. We don't need like everyone from the team taking part of this discussion. We can collect ideas from people before the meeting and then analyze it. So for example, with 5 whys technique, we ask why as long as we get into the root cause, and then think about solutions or action points that can be done to avoid it in the future. And also think about like being a little bit retrospective and think about what could have been done to avoid it in the past. So not only what was the root cause, but in which moments the process went wrong, or we missed some process or some procedure, and what can be done in the future to prevent that. And my favorite part, because I when I published the book, I wrote a couple of stories about failures. And this is not because we want to like feel the fear or make fun of someone or some team that they failed and they broke something, or they lost some money, or they killed people, because there is nothing funny about it. We just want to learn from their mistakes, because most of us don't work in safety critical projects, so we got used to bugs, and our clients and our users got used to problems happening on production. So that's why it's really worth checking like the biggest failures of software engineering history. There are some good histories there, and we can learn from them, because maybe we are not producing software for aircraft or for hospitals. So people's life don't depend on our software. But if we produce like small products that only a couple of folks use there, we can still learn from their mistakes, from the mistakes of creators of safety critical software, because they take so much care about quality, that it's worth looking at them and learn from them. And by looking at the mistakes, we can learn the most. And it's cheaper to learn from others' mistakes than from our own. But it's the great lesson to check the failures of others, and to check if maybe it can happen in our projects. Maybe something similar happened to us. Maybe look at the solutions, because there are some failures that were just forgotten by the company. They never said a word about it. They never said they're sorry or anything. But there are failures that were very impressive, because they were so transparent, and the company like analyzed all the root causes. The GitLab failure from 2017 was example of that. They were so transparent, and they showed everything. They made the 5 whys analysis. They wrote about it on the blog. They also showed the process of fixing the problem, and it was terrible for their wild ego, probably, because like 5,000 people all around the world looking at their like ways of fixing problems was not the easiest thing they probably could do, but they did it. And it's really impressive to look at the ways in which people solve the problems, and which they how they handle the failures that they made. Because failure is one thing, it happens, of course, everyone makes mistakes. Sometimes it's only money, sometimes it's much more than money, but how you handle that and how you behave afterwards and how you analyze it and show it to the world, show it to your team, it's completely different story. And it also requires some soft skills, which I mentioned. And I think the way you handle incidents is really showing how good software engineer you are. So not only the code and the test and the code coverage level, but also how transparent you are about the things. And for example, with like having problems on your own, it doesn't need to be incident on production. It can be you taking too much time on the task that was supposed to be small, but something happened on the way, and you're developing that like for a very long time. It's also about the transparency. So people will understand that it's taking so long, but you need to tell them why it happens. Because if you just sit quietly and try to focus on solving the thing, people might think that you're just arrogant and you don't want to share that because you know better or something like that. So transparency in solving problems and having these incidents is also like very important as for your image as a software engineer, but also for the image of your team in the company or outside for your customers and clients. All right, so we have the people, we have the process, and we have incidents which will happen, and we just need to do the best we can to learn from them and to avoid them in the future. So the first thing we can do to have this great, to produce good quality software is to take care of the communication, learn soft skills, invest in your soft skills, because it's not only about code and being great programmer in a sense, so writing great lines of code and great tests and taking care of the CI process, but also the whole thing about soft skills, which is like really creating the full product and not only the separate lines of code. Improving the process, which will like be great for our bad days, for the moments that we are weaker, for the moments that we don't have so much time, that we are just not our 100% selves. Having the great process that it's up to date, that it's not our legacy, but rather our help in creating good software, and learn from mistakes, from our mistakes, from the mistakes of others, and being like understandable for the people who make mistakes, because everyone can have bad days, and that's why we have the process, that's why we have procedures. And so like having this lesson learned when we make mistakes is really important, but also being transparent about like solving the problem, about being humble when doing that, and the most important thing, not blaming and not looking for a person who is responsible, but rather focusing on the plan of solving things, and then analyze it. So that's all from me. I see that there are lots of comments on the chat, so let's jump to the discussion. And we can stay in touch on Twitter if you want after this presentation. Thank you.
That was great. That was fantastic. And we will keep going with more of this. We'll enter into the Q&A phase. I love, you know, absolutely, writing software is a social act. For a vast majority of us, few people still do write their software in their garage, but really, yeah. Most of us, it is a social act, and we are 1 out of 10, 20, 100, 6,000 people that are churning away at the oars, as I put it. You know, and you know, challenging and experimenting and evolving your process. Everything, you know, we should be looking to improve everything as we go. And you touched on that. And then the thing that I like to bring up is having the courage to ask the hard questions when you discover a mistake. Mm-hmm. A mistake is an opportunity to learn and improve your process. If everything's going right, then something's wrong. Because that means there's no room for improvement. And any mistake that makes it, a bug that makes it, a missed, Cody said something, oh, I accidentally deleted the production database. You know, there's something in there that allows you to improve your process. It's an insight. And having the courage to put that lens on and look at yourself, your process, your company's process of how you're writing software, how you're delivering software, that takes courage, and it only makes us all better, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
It's great. So questions, who has questions? You can put them in chat, you can raise your hand. So I see some comments in chat, you know, a mistake is an opportunity. Have you, so I know that I've come across Arlo Belshi. Arlo Belshi was one of the people that really inspired some of my thinking around defects and root cause analysis. And all too frequently for me, I see root cause analysis, people find out, okay, what caused this bug? And they only go to really about 1 level down, maybe 2 levels down. And it's not asking yourself the hard question. You bring up the 5 whys, which is a wonderful thing. I love the 5 whys. And asking the hard questions of, well, okay, so this bug made it in because Steve didn't get a code review, or, you know, when Paige did Steve's code review, I'm picking on friends that I know here. You know, when Paige did the code review, he didn't have time to do a complete code review, and it just rubber stamped it. And for the record, I hate code reviews, and Paige does too. And then we go, well, then why didn't Paige have time? And then why didn't Paige is busy, he's got his other stuff. Why did he not feel safe to take time to do that true code review? Mm-hmm. And diving down and asking those deep questions and finding out the true answer or a true cause to it. And then the courage to bring that up and say, how do we address that? You know, our developers aren't trusted and they don't have time. How can we deal with that? You know, and Dave Shingles point out, you know, how do we feel safe to slow down?
Mm-hmm. But it's also the cause of this, like jumping to the solution instead of like digging deeper with the 5 whys or any other technique. The thing that I said about listening, so we don't listen to really understand, we listen to like jump into the solution, so to reply, to solve the problem immediately. So if we feel uncomfortable with something happened, there is an incident on production, we look for the first root cause that we might spot, and then we try to solve this. And the real problem might be somewhere else completely, but we don't dig deeper enough to find out what's the root cause of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that sort of comes back to, we don't have time to actually dig down to the root cause. We're too busy with other things. I see a question from Ryan Farrell. How do you help shape your manager's communication if she displays some insecure behaviors that you've discussed?
So the manager doesn't have the communication skills, right? In this situation. So you really can't change anyone else except yourself. so this is the hard truth that when I, for example, give the presentation about soft skills or any other topic related with ego or with people problem, there are people coming to me and saying, my colleague really need to see this presentation because she needs to learn this soft skills, and they are really tough to work with. How to do that, how to force them. And you really can't, because the good communication is a skill that you need to want to learn. You cannot force anyone to like you or to communicate well with you. And usually is if the person doesn't have enough soft skills, from my experience, if I suggest that maybe soft skills workshop can be useful for them at this moment, they were always like saying, no, I don't need that. My communication skills is great. So people who are really tough to work with, they usually don't realize that. So it's really hard to force them to do anything because they think they already know that. And with the I have a good friend who's a psychologist, and she gives talks about soft skills during conferences. And sometimes there are people who come to her and say, hey, it's all obvious. You don't say anything new. We all know that. And yet these are the people who are the hardest to work with usually. So people who don't have communication skills, they usually think that they are great communicators, and they don't really need that. So the only thing that you can do is to change your attitude, your style of communication. And from my experience with the tech team, we as software engineers usually think that we are obvious, that our communication is clear and everything we say is logical because it's like part of engineering. And for people outside the tech team, sometimes the things we say, it's so unnatural. The language is so much different than what they use on a daily basis. So it might happen that we have great communication skills, and the person outside, so for example, the person from the business, from client, from any other team, also has great communication skills, but we have different communication styles. So it might take time to communicate well with this person or with this team.
I like to think of what you just described as we're speaking different languages. You know, the business is speaking more business, we're speaking more program, more systems, and we're being very clear and concise, but they just don't bridge very well. I'm definitely with you on your talk, and when you say that you can't change other people, because we can't. We can try and influence, but there are a number of philosophies and religions in the world that say, don't try and change your surroundings, change yourself. at the same time, some techniques that I've used when I've come across people that are above me in the hierarchy that are challenging with communication is some depends on their personality and getting to know them. Get to know the person some, talk with them, maybe ask questions about, hey, did you know, are you intending to come across like this? Or are you sure about this? Asking questions. Sometimes with some people, I secretly, this is a little passive aggressive, I'll leave a book on their desk for them to read. And so little things like that. It's like, oh, hey, I found this interesting article, and send them an article with it. And I think I've just outed myself to maybe some people that are here that are like, hey, Steve left this book on my desk, maybe. But at the same time, the thing that I've gotten to know, and I don't consider myself a good communicator, I consider myself above average or adequate, is every time that I think that I'm a good communicator, I am blindsided and there's something that I can improve. So that for myself is a lesson of, hey, if I think I'm communicating well, maybe I'm not. Let's think about that. Paige?
Yeah, so I wanted to kind of see if we could sort of loop back around to something you talked about early in the beginning that seemed to get a lot of traction in the chat, which was around interviewing and hiring, and that can you expand a little more on how you go about making sure, or not making sure, but how you go about exploring that side, the communication side of the people you're talking to, the non-technical side?
Sure. So one of the techniques that we used during the interview process was to ask about possible solutions to the problems that we currently have in a team. So it's not the interview like, tell me about garbage collector in Java, but rather, hey, so we have this challenge right now in our team that we want to bring this new feature. And we are thinking if we should go this way or that way. And it can be like fairly technical. So it's about the framework that we should pick, or library or something like very techy, but it also can be about possible solutions of solving a problem, for example. So rather the way of solving the problem than any tool. And then if the person comes with something, slightly disagree, for example, so bring some opposite arguments, even though you can totally agree, then you check if the person handles well the discussion, which is disagreeing with other person, but also if the person doesn't know the answer to the question, you can see if the person is eager to ask questions or just say, I don't know, I don't have experience with that. Because one of my colleagues she was hired because even though she didn't have enough technical skills for the position, she asked a lot of questions, and then she learned during the interview process. So, for example, they asked her about some language or some library, and she said, I don't know, can you tell me more about that? And they started talking, and she jumped into some lessons learned. So she shared her point of view, she gave examples how to use that, and sometimes she was right, sometimes not. But if she was not, then they suggested some solution, and then she went deeper and deeper, and we hired her because it was great process of communicating and coming to the best solutions. It was not about like the techie part in that, but rather the process of evolving to this answer. So this is like really great to discuss things during the interview, seeing how the person reacts when we disagree, because some people just start screaming, and it actually happened. One of my friends One of my friends had this during the interview process. They disagreed with the person, and he started screaming. And he said that it's stupid, and he disagrees. And I think he even left the room. So you obviously know that you don't want to work with this person. So they are different ways, and if every team is different, so there is no one right way of doing that. To feel the vibe, if you are going to like work well with this person or not, just like bring the person into your daily processes and just like put the person into the discussion or into the peer programming or some other processes that you have, and see how the person reacts, if it's very natural, if the person asks questions, if doesn't understand, etc. So this way you can really see how well this person can work with you. Of course, it might happen that the person is like extremely nice during the interview process, and then you hire the person and it's not so nice anymore, but it happens. And if you focus only on the technical skills and you don't really like want to learn if the person is the right fit or not, it's like gambling. So you can have a person who is great technically, but no one will want to work with that person on the long run.
Yep.
Excellent. I think you actually hit on something there when you were saying, bring them into the work that they're going to be doing every day. Whether if you're collaborating, let's all collaborate on something, and it doesn't necessarily have to be production work for your team, but you get that understanding of can they collaborate, can they fit in. I like that a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, good stuff. Dave Schinkel, I believe you had a question.
Yeah, I want to mention a lot of things I learned at Pillar really were eye-opening for me. So direct and personal conversations, now they don't always work, but rather than sit in silos and not talk to each other or be afraid to talk to each other, that was huge. I mean, that was hard at first, but man, was that awesome, right? Like, you guys are adults, go talk go talk on the side, figure it out, right? Like, that was amazing. I take that with me from Pillar everywhere now. Second is getting to know them. I had a really difficult, egoistical developer on my team, even in the XP shop. Before I left, I got to know him. He was having trouble in his life, and that's not the excuse for him, but he was having some problems, and it makes a huge difference if he's known. And then the third thing was the team. This is at Pillar again. The team needs to facilitate problems. If you're in a team space, mobbing or pairing, we were told, listen around yourselves. Do you hear anything going on? There are their problems. Help them out. You have to be willing as a team to do that, or it won't work. That's one of the things that was core to what we did. And if you have, because you can't always solve it with yourself and another person, you need maybe some help with the team, right? I think those are huge. Like what I learned at Pillar was just amazing. And that was amazing culture we had. And I take that with me and I try to teach others to do the same thing. So,
yeah, great points. Thanks for that. Yeah, regarding this second point, that there might be situations when someone is just overwhelmed. It can be because of the work, or it can be because of the personal life. Of course, it's not the we are not going to like do the work for this person, but knowing that this person is like being in a fight that we had no idea about, it's eye-opening, and it can really like make you more tolerant when working with people. And we are usually very tolerant for our bad days and for our problems, and we easily can say that, hey, it's not my fault because, but if we talk about others, we are not so tolerant anymore, and almost everyone has some fight going on and having some personal problems. It can be family, it can be health, it can be like many things, and we shouldn't judge just looking at, I don't know, the list of commits or the list of books read this year, but also like having this person, treating this person as a whole, because we are people and we make mistakes, but we are also great and we come up with great ideas. And it might happen that the person has a bad time right now, but in 2 months it's going to be us having bad time, and this person will help us out. You never know. So we need to be like very tolerant for others and not only for ourselves.
Mm-hmm. That there's an interesting point in there that I heard about. People tend to fall on a spectrum of early adopters to slow adopters on different things. And there's comfort in different things. And a lot of us, some of us here are agile technical coaches that come in and try and teach high quality practices, things like that. And coming in and saying, well, let's do pair programming, let's do TDD, let's do this. And there are some people in that spectrum that really take it on and say, yes, we will do that. And they were going to do it anyway. And then there are people all the way at the other spectrum that are saying, oh no, TDD again, I cannot think that way. It's proven. Haven't you seen the video TDD is dead, which doesn't have to do with TDD being dead, but yeah. Haven't you seen this and that? And they come up with all the excuses on it. But here's the thing is they might not be ready for it, and they might not have been exposed to it in the right way. So, again, getting back to maybe they're having a hard time in their life. They're have some instability somewhere and they need the stability in development, like you're talking about. And maybe if you stick with it and you're persistent and you're kind, you're empathetic, and that you have the courage to work with them and show them, okay, it might not be for you now, but hey, let's try a little bit of it and work with it. Those people that tend to be the slow adopters are the ones that generally will stick with it the rest of their career if you can get them to adopt it.
Yeah, totally.
So, yeah.
And as a early adopter, I know that the tough questions from these people who don't really believe that in the first moment, the questions are like bring so much value, because we start thinking about the cons of the solutions, and we think about possible ways of this going the wrong way. So if we are all early adopters and we jumped right into the solutions, not even thinking a moment about possible problems with that, we would be like jumping around from framework to framework and not like thinking if we really need it or not. So we really need these tough questions from the people who are not so eager to adopt new solutions so fast.
Yeah, wonderful. Good question. Great answer. I know. Oh, yep. Jennifer, question.
I just wanted to chime in. It's not really a question, but it's just more of a continuation of what we've talked about today. I was reading a little bit about Carol Dweck's research on the growth mindset. So she researched failure in children, and she came up with the term growth mindset as opposed to a fixed mindset, and that seems to just sort of fall right in line with a lot of what we're talking about. How the thoughtfulness and the intention in which you work well with others, and if someone needs a little bit more coaching, if they need to be, called out on something, you're not going to do that in front of the rest of the team, right? You may have a sidebar with that person and, sort of try to distill what's at the core of that conflict. But if you want to celebrate someone and celebrate their success, you do want to do that in front of everyone else. You want to try and lift people up and support them and focus on possibilities and not the negative. And so I think that makes a big difference in any working environment.
Yeah, great point. And I think all about feedback, giving feedback is like taking care of this person's growth. And if we keep that in mind, we will do exactly that. We will like give all the best to people in front of the whole team, but give the one-to-one feedback when we have something constructive to say, something to improve. Because we want this person to grow and this person to be happy when there is something to celebrate, and to maybe change something in the way they work or the way they communicate. But if we do that in front of the whole team, this person will like take this as an attack and not as advice of the friend. So this is really important, and this is what happens, especially like in the situations like I mentioned during the endless discussions. Sometimes they get personal at some point, and people don't really they are not really productive anymore. They just want to win, so they like start shooting this negative feedback to the person and not to the solution, and this is like the end of the world. But yeah, so we don't want that. We want this one-to-one feedback when we have something constructive to say.
Yeah. Hard conversations. Number one, communication is hard, and language is even harder with that.
Yeah, language of the like technical language, business language, scientific language, but also we I'm not sure about your team, how international are your teams, but here in Europe, like most of us speak English as a second language. Yes. And this can be like huge challenge to find the right way of communicating, even in like the same nation, and not even saying about working with people who come from abroad, and they speak they speak English as a second language as well. And sometimes the style of the communication is so different, even though the grammar is okay and the vocabulary is fine, but like I say one thing and the person understands completely something different. So this is a huge challenge as well.
Well, and cultural differences around how you communicate too. Yeah. I know that when I'm working with teams that are in different parts of the world, I try to pick up a word here and there, and try to at least start off meetings with hi in whatever language it is, and start to experience a little bit of that, just to put it on me to get to know the teams a little better, and to know more about the holidays that they're experiencing and where they're at. Yeah, but I mean, no, the communication is, we're humans. We communicate on all different layers.
Yeah. Even
over video, we have the ability to communicate different things just by how we're holding ourselves. If I'm sitting here with my arms crossed, or yeah.
Or if you look at if you have the camera like above your monitor, for example, and you have the team here, you have your camera here, and you look there because there is a team, some people might feel even offended because of that, because they feel like you're not looking at them, but you're actually looking at them. Yep. So this might be a challenge as well. And this whole like remote work brings another dimension into communication, and like the meetings became harder, and yeah. So all this communication thing is extremely challenging, and we need to stay humble and realize that, because otherwise we are going to think that it's easy. So it should be obvious for us and for others, and then we judge like the technical part. But technical part is fine. We just need to communicate better.
Yeah, again, it falls back on whenever I think I'm communicating really well, I should be thinking, oh, what am I missing?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I actually attended this
I like
soft
that
skills
rule.
workshop. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I like that rule. I'll keep that in mind, Steve.
It's hard to remember that.
Mhm.
So there was, as you were talking earlier, there was some discussion that was spurred by one of the things that you brought up about having the courage on the team that you were working with to delete all the unit tests and just go with
Mhm.
integration tests. And I don't think that the person who was asking the question is still here, but I think that that deserves some discussion, because that is a big decision for a team.
Yeah.
A lot of money was spent writing those unit tests, and there are some people that would go, Steve, are you saying it's okay to delete unit tests? And I would say absolutely. There's a time and a place when you should be looking at these unit tests are slowing us down and they're not providing value, then absolutely we should be looking at deleting them. And I think that's what you're saying. Some more
Mhm.
details or information around that, maybe.
Yeah, so it's all about evaluating the process and the procedures, and whatever brings the value to us, we should like keep doing. But if we see that something is not helping us anymore, and with these unit tests, it was a nightmare, because we actually didn't feel that they bring any value, or they are a good indicator if our software is working or not. They were just there because we pay for them with our time and money, and we were afraid of deleting them. But they didn't bring much value anymore. And because we needed to maintain them, we couldn't focus on the integration tests. So that's why we decided to do that. It was not something that happened overnight, of course. It happened many times that there was a problem, and people complained that they need to write or maintain the unit test when they want to like fix something and move to production. So one day during the retrospective, we just decided that it's just the only way to remove these unit tests. And every time I bring this up, people want to discuss it because it's controversial. But at this moment, in this team, for this project, it was the right decision, in my opinion. And I would do that again if I had a chance.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things is fearless introspection, to look at everything in the process. Look at our collaborative programming, the pairing, our ensemble pairing work. Is that working? Is that providing value? How can we make it better? Is it slowing us down? How can we improve on that? Test-driven development, continuous integration, DevOps, all of the things that I personally hold dear to my heart when I'm writing software that allows me to sleep well at night and do sustainable software. I challenge it regularly. I would love to find something that helps me write software better than TDD. Please, absolutely. Give me that opportunity to learn and improve myself. But I haven't found it. I keep challenging it. And it's not because I dislike TDD. It's because I assume there's something better. AI is coming. Dave Shinkle's like, AI is, oh yeah. I've too much sci-fi in this head that I've read says I'm not going to trust the AI writing my own code or its own code. Yeah, continuous improvement, which is a topic that you brought up, and challenge all the things. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to share a related story that I've experienced. I was on a team, and deployments were just so brutal. And we were doing continuous deployments, and we would push commits like, I don't know, once an hour. And our build would just be red all the time. And it was the classic, oh, those are just the acceptance tests. Just run them a couple times and they'll just pass. And, you know, I joined this team maybe like 2 years after they formed. And that was going on pretty much from the start. And 6 months of me being on the team, it was like, you know what? We came to agreement. What if we just deleted those tests? How would we feel? And people, you know, some people were raising that point of, but we paid for those tests, you know, but the tests don't do anything.
Yeah.
Did they make us feel confident? And the answer was no. So we ultimately deleted every single acceptance test we had. And this isn't saying acceptance testing was bad or is bad. It just, for this context, the way it was implemented, it wasn't working for us. And it was the best thing we did. And we started to feel a lot more confident in our releases. Yeah, so that story resonates with me as well.
Yeah, and maybe in somewhere in the past, these tests were like bringing value to people, and they paid the role they were made for, but not anymore. And at this point, when you don't need these tests anymore, then why to keep them if they are read anyway? Just keep them.
100%.
Yeah. It brings into one of those things, the fallacy of sunk cost. Because we spent money on it, they're valuable. Well, not if they're costing more to maintain them. Yeah. Dave?
You're muted.
Yeah, I think it's fair to assess that and to remove them. But I think before you remove them, ask the question, could we improve them?
Yeah,
If not,
totally.
Yeah, I think that don't just like, oh, so remove them because they're a pain.
Yes.
Are we writing them bad, right? I mean, we could be writing them bad too, right? So it depends, right?
So,
but have that conversation. Yeah.
To tell the full story, that's really what it was we should improve these. And the answer was, actually, this framework we're using is kind of a pain in the ass. We should move to something else. And the answer was, let's just turn off all the old tests for now and try writing like, what's the feature that if this breaks, you know, this is our main 80% of our value for our customers. We wrote a couple really top level tests in that, and that worked really well. We just deleted the other ones. We moved like to 1/100th of the acceptance tests, and that worked for us.
Sort of, to me, this highlights something, and I attribute it to Jim Shore, but he never remembers him having said it, is that TDD is an easy concept to learn, but it takes a lifetime to master. I would expand that to automated testing, being able to write automated tests. Super easy to learn. The ability to write good automated tests, be they whatever level of the test pyramid you want to talk about, takes a lot of skill and a lot of time to know how to write them well and how to maintain a healthy ratio within them. Many companies waste a lot of money on bad tests.
Yeah, totally agree. Once I conducted a training for a group of software engineers, and when we started discussing, because I taught them how to write good tests, and it was not like the technical skill, like, I don't know, how to write your first unit test, because they already knew that, but how to write good tests. So about the structure of the test, about naming conventions, about everything which is related to like tests that are easy to maintain, not only to write. And when we discussed the topic, we realized that they were forced to write unit tests because someone in the company read a book about it or attended the conference and learned that it's good to have unit tests. So they were forced to grow the code coverage KPI. But what they really need was integration tests, because they had lots of services, small services that talk to each other. So they really, so it was really hard for them to find the good place to write unit tests and they really needed the integration test. And actually, they realized that they wrote lots of integration tests, but they used JUnit for that. So they thought that they were like not doing the right thing, and they were afraid of me judging them that they did the wrong thing. But actually it was the best for them to write the test that they needed, and not force themselves to write unit tests that were really useful for this situation, for this company.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny, the number of times that I've gone into a company and started helping the teams with their testing and their code, and you stumble across a test that is using a mocking framework of some sort that actually isn't testing anything.
Except the mocking framework. Yeah.
Except the mocking framework. And I think Cody put it in chat. Code coverage gives us shivers, and it's like, no, don't enforce code coverage.
Mm-hmm.
It is a metric. I use it personally at times when I'm writing code to look at my code and its coverage to point out things to me that might stand some improvement. But that's the extent that I use it. And code coverage can cause really, really bad behavior. It
Mm-hmm.
leads to those poorly written tests where you have tests that are tightly coupled to the implementation and not testing the behavior, which is what you really want. And that's where it takes a lifetime to master how to write good automated tests, is how do you decouple tests so they're only really testing behavior?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Other questions? Anyone else have anything? Yeah, go Kelly.
I just had a question more for Cody. When you said your build would be read all of the time, what does that mean?
So I guess what I was meaning with that is, like, we had a continuous deployment pipeline where when I pushed code, it would integrate into like a dev environment, which then it would build to some servers, and then we would run automated tests against it. Those automated tests would be our integration tests, and it would be our acceptance tests, kind of the top level end-to-end tests that are actually driving through UI. Those top end-to-end tests would always break. So it would stay in our dev environment or beta environment and never go to the next environment, like go all the way to production. It would get stuck here. It'd be held hostage by these tests that were really flaky.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep. No problem.
Awesome. Anyone else have any thoughts, comments, questions? All right. Ola, do you have any closing remarks that you'd like to make?
You are on mute.
Still on mute.
Oh, sorry about that.
There you go.
So thank you very much for inviting me, and it was great to have these great discussions with you. And even though you start the day, it's 8:30 p.m. here in Wrocław, Poland. So it's great that we have this possibility to cooperate. And I think the one good thing about the pandemic is that we became open for this collaboration all around the world, and we don't really care about this time differences, and we are more open for the cultural differences. And I hope we are as open for different communication styles in our teams, and this is what I wish for you and for myself. So thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Wonderful and wise words.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, and hopefully I'll be making it to a European conference next year, and maybe with luck, we'll be there and be able to meet in person too. That would be awesome.
Yeah, hopefully.
I would like to thank everyone for coming today. This is the Seattle Software Crafter Meetup. We meet on the fourth Thursday of the month. Next month, we're going to have Garrick West, who's one of our own, talking about industrial yak shaving in half the time. Talking about debugging, some debugging and troubleshooting techniques that help. And other than that, I would say check for this video. I'll upload it onto the YouTube channel. We do have the Slack channel as well. And I'd say everyone be safe, be awesome, have fun. All right.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.